Taurus 5. The widow at an open grave. This indicates grief, the loss of something that can never be recreated. And we find this most poignant when we've lost somebody. Somebody has died, some very close family member or friend has died. And it's hard. It's hard to experience grief. And yet, what we're being shown here is that if we really want to be free of worldly attachments, we have to break free of even the worst. Grief is possibly one of the worst things that we can suffer. And we have to even take our spiritual centeredness to this highest level where even grief does not really disturb us, not on a fundamental level. The teaching really is that everything dies. Whatever we think we have, whatever we think we possess, is just an illusion. We don't possess anything. We don't possess any relationship with any person. We don't even possess our own personality, not the bit that changes. There's a deep, essential, eternal part of us, which is soul. This is unchanging in the sense that it's always who we are. It evolves, however. The soul even evolves. Nothing can be thought to be permanent, nothing at all. And most particularly in ordinary life, not even today lasts. Very soon it's history. And what's really important to us today, right now, actually is of no consequence tomorrow. And this is true of everything, even our closest relationships. And that's quite a hard lesson to learn. And it's even quite a hard thing to discuss. Death and grief and so on is almost a taboo subject. And that's because we deal with it badly in the West, particularly. If you go to Eastern countries, death is sometimes celebrated. They have a party, and it is not understood that the person who has died has moved to a better place. And so in a sense, when we grieve for a dying person, a person who has died, then it's rather selfish. They're better off. They've gone to a much better place. And so the pain that we're suffering is our own sense of need, because we've invested a part of our personality, a part of our character, part of our identity, our sense of self, our security. We've invested that in the person who's now died. Because if we didn't do that, then we wouldn't feel grief. So grief is not really sympathy for the one who has passed on at all. It's self-sympathy, because now we can no longer project our need onto another person. We have to actually claim it ourselves. Now, of course, this is a very provocative teaching. But that's the case. If we have invested ourselves so that we need another person to be a certain way in order for us to feel okay, then that cannot be good on a spiritual level. We cannot allow ourselves to invest our sense of well-being in anything external at all. We're going to lose it. Whatever it is we invest in, whether it's possessions and monetary security, or a job, or a set of friends, or a lover, or a wife, or a husband, or even our sense of being able to do things, because all of that dies. Our ability even to take care of ourselves on a very simple level eventually leaves us as we move towards our own departure. And this is a very high spiritual test, whether or not we can detach ourselves from everything, bit by bit. And we're not needing to detach ourselves from having things or doing things at all. It's needing them that we have to detach from. Wanting's okay, but needing is not. That's not okay for a spiritual seeker. There's a Sufi story about this where a very poor man consults a Sufi, the highest kind of spiritual teacher of the land. And when he sees that the Sufi, he goes to journey to see the Sufi, and he sees that the Sufi's got all of this wealth, and he says, well, what are you doing? You're a rich man. And the thing is that the poor man was attached to his few possessions, but the Sufi was not attached. He could just walk away tomorrow in a moment. And it's the attachment that matters, not what you've got. It's how much you need it that counts. I had a similar type of thing in my life once. I'd been thoroughly involved in a business, and I was absolutely investing myself in that business, and it was all I was, all I had. It made me rich, and so on. And one day I came to the understanding that it wasn't good for me. It was creating physical problems in my body, and I didn't enjoy life at all. And I left it. I just walked away from that business. And the feeling of freedom I had was perhaps one of the most profound feelings I've ever experienced in my life. Just to let go of everything. And I went traveling. I found myself in a foreign country where nobody knew who I was. Nobody else knew where I was. I had nothing but a small bag of clothes and a passport and a little bit of money. And I felt absolutely free. It was a wonderful feeling. And it's worth it. It's worth giving up more and more and more of your attachments in order to feel the lightness of being that comes as a direct result of having let go of the heavy burden of attachment. And there is no greater feeling than the attachment to another being rent asunder, broken suddenly by their death. There's no stronger, heavier feeling than that. And it's to be avoided. That's debilitating. That would really unsettle most people. And it's not only in death that you lose people. It's sometimes in relationship. If you're absolutely invested in your marriage, or the fact that your children love you, or whatever. Of course, on the normal social level, you're not going to really persuade anybody that needs to change. But on the highest level of spiritual attainment, you have to find a part of you somewhere within that knows that you're not dependent upon your relationship or your children or your work or anything else. You're just not dependent on it. You can function perfectly well without any of these things. If you can do this, then you treat all of your things and people in your life as material for you to progress spiritually. Even the closest love relationships, on one level, is simply material for the soul's journey of self-discovery, grist for the mill. And day by day, all that you see, all that you have, is just that. It's just material for you to work with. And the two sides of this are to engage with it fully, get totally involved in all of your relationships, in all of your things, and all of your visionary activities and your desires, get totally involved with it until the moment has passed, and then forget it. It's a real challenge to be passionately involved one moment and then disinterested, moving on. Just say goodbye to the moment, one by one. Live your life as a journey. Travel on. And don't let nostalgia or grief bind you back. They're too heavy. They're too heavy to carry.